welcome back to my channel, Corduroy ASMR. Before I get into the video, I just wanted to let y'all know that I have started a Patreon. There is two tiers. There is the baby buttons tier, which is $5 a month. You get custom videos at a discounted rate, and you also get access to 2 exclusive videos every month. ASMR videos, of course. And your names will be shouted out in every video on my main channel, as well as the Patreon videos. And then I have a second tier that is $10 a month, which is called My Teddies. And in that tier, you have the same as the first tier, but you have 4 videos instead of 2 videos. And of course, you also get to make video recommendations, and you have access to polls and everything. And you also get behind the scenes photos, little videos that I'll post sometimes, and just get to know me better through that tier. And the link will be in the description if you are interested. Now let's get into the video. So for today's video, we will be dipping into true crime. This one is about David Parker Ray, who was an American serial killer. And of course, viewer discretion is advised. This one, same as my last one, actually talks about a lot of violence, of course, particularly sexual violence, and there's like torture and things like that. It's not too graphic, not as graphic as the video that I did the last time, but still, it's a little sensitive, so maybe don't watch this if you're not comfortable with hearing about that at all. But that's what this one is going to be about, and let's get into the video. David Parker Ray was born on November 6th, 1939 in Belen, New Mexico, to Father Cecil Leland Ray, a mechanic and native of Oregon, and Mother Nettie Opal Parker, who had been born in Texas. During his childhood, Ray and his younger sister, Peggy Pearl Ray, lived with his mother's disciplinary parents, Russell and Dolly Parker, on a small ranch due to their poor financial condition. He was sporadically visited by his violent, alcoholic father, who would supply him with magazines depicting sadomasochist pornography. Like unsolicited, or that's wild. At Mountain Air High School in Mountain Air, New Mexico, he was bullied by his peers for his shyness around girls, which resulted in his abusing alcohol and other drugs. Ray's sexual fantasies of raping, torturing, and even murdering women developed during his teenage years. When Ray was 14 years old, his sister saw his sadomasochist drawings and pornographic pictures of bondage practices. As a result, Ray and his sister became estranged. Based on statements made by Ray, he is believed to have begun assaulting women as an adolescent. In an advisory message that was tape recorded by Ray on July 23, 1993, he claimed, quote, "I've been raping bitches ever since I was old enough to jerk off and tie little girls' hands behind their back," end quote. He even alleged to his first wife that he had committed his first homicide Police thought that he terrorized many women with these tools for many years with the help of accomplices, who are alleged to have included several of the women he was dating. Ray's torture room was a repurposed, soundproofed cargo trailer located immediately outside his Elephant Butte, New Mexico property. Ray stocked the trailer, which he called the Toybox, with numerous sex toys, torture implements, syringes, and detailed diagrams showing ways of inflicting pain, as well as a homemade electrical generator to deliver electrical shocks to his victims. In total, Ray is believed to have spent $100,000 on the trailer, fitting it with sex toys and torture devices. Reportedly, Ray constructed elaborate contraptions to confine his victims, such as a fur-lined coffin and a makeshift pillory. In addition, there were also elaborate locks and pulleys to prevent his captives from escaping. A mirror was mounted in the ceiling above the obstetric table to which he strapped his victims, so that they would be able to see themselves be raped and tortured. He has said to have wanted his victims to see everything he was doing to them. Ray also put his victims in wooden contraptions that bent them over and immobilized them while he had his dogs and sometimes other friends rape them. Ray often had an audio tape recording of his voice played for his victims whenever they regained consciousness. In the transcripts of the tapes, Ray detailed how he would occasionally release his captives, abandoning them by the side of a country road after severely drugging them with barbiturates to induce amnesia, which would prevent them from reporting the assaults. He has said, "I get off on mind games. After we get completely through with you, you're going to be drugged up real heavy with a combination of sodium pentothal and phenobarbital. They're both hypnotic drugs that will make you extremely susceptible to hypnosis, auto-hypnosis, and hypnotic suggestion. You're going to be kept drugged a couple of days while I play with your mind. By the time I get through brainwashing you, you're not going to remember a fucking thing about this little adventure." He would kidnap about 4 or 5 women a year, holding each of them captive for around 2 to 3 months. Exactly how many murder victims Ray claimed over the years is uncertain. Investigators believe that he raped, tortured, and killed up to 60 individuals throughout his life, but they have not been able to locate any of their remains. A diary that Ray kept detailed what he did to each victim, but it did not disclose where he buried their bodies. According to his accomplice, Cindy Hendy, Ray's fatal victims were dismembered and buried, dumped in the Elephant Butte Lake or nearby ravines. After his arrest, Ray agreed to show authorities where he had buried his victims, but he died before he could do so, and Hendy was unable to assist investigators in recovering any possible bodies. The Albuquerque FBI in 2011 released hundreds of images of items that were collected during the investigation of Ray. The FBI believes some of the items, which included jewelry and clothes, may have been taken from victims. The FBI, along with its law enforcement partners in New Mexico, is aggressively pursuing several leads in the search for remains of any possible victims of David Parker Ray. His suspected victims are Billy Ray Bowers, who was 53. He disappeared from Phoenix, Arizona. On September 28, 1989, the body of an unknown man wrapped in a blue tarp was found by a fisherman at McCree Cove. No identification was found on him, and it was determined that he had been shot in the back of the head. The unidentified decedent was ultimately identified as Bowers in March 1999 when authorities made dental record comparisons. In 1986, Bowers was a co-owner house on North Van Buren Street in Phoenix, Arizona. The owners employed Ray, who worked as a mechanic and was described as very talented, but was also often in conflict with Bowers. While incarcerated, Hendy stated that Ray told her he had killed Bowers and dumped his body in the Elephant Butte River. 22-year-old Jill Suzanne Troya was last seen at the Frontier restaurant in the 2400 block of East Central in Albuquerque. During the late evening of September 30th, 1995, she had gone to a bar with friends earlier, then went with her girlfriend, Glenda Jean Jessie Ray. When they left to go to the restaurant, witnesses reported Glenda and Troya arguing. Glenda later told the police she left Troya at the Frontier restaurant and left with her father, Ray, and that she and David went to Elephant Butte Reservoir in southern New Mexico. Troya has never been heard from again. Ray wrote detailed accounts of sexual tortures and burial of his victims, including one in which he described an Asian woman who fit Troya's description. Among the possessions associated with victims was a 2-page letter dated June 1990 to a young woman named Connie from an Australian man named Mark. According to Ray's journal, Connie was a white woman that he abducted and murdered in December 1995. She was 18 years old, had long blonde hair, a birthmark on her chest, and was 160 centimeters tall. The Australian Federal Police and FBI conducted an investigation, hoping to locate Mark so that he would be able to identify Connie and her family and friends, but were unable to do so. Her remains have not been located or linked to an existing unidentified or missing persons case. 22. Sylvia Marie Parker was a homeless woman living on the shores of Elephant Butte Lake who was an acquaintance of Ray's via his daughter, who supplied her with methamphetamine and cocaine. Parker was also the mother of 2 children and was living with them in a tent she had borrowed from David. The police later discovered that Parker's boyfriend at the time was Dennis Yancey, one of Ray's playmates. Parker disappeared on July 5th, 1997, when she was abducted and subjected to several days of torture before accomplice Yancey strangled her to death under orders by Ray. Yancey took police to where he disposed of the body with David Parker Ray and Jessie Ray, but the body had been moved. Yancey suspected, and the police support the theory that Ray came back to move the body later in case Yancey ever had a softening of his conscience and confessed. At 10:30 a.m. on June 30th, 1990, Ralph Tudor, a 61-year-old El Paso resident, was fishing in the Elephant Butte Lake. Caught on Tudor's fishing line was an 80-pound gunny sack filled with what he thought was animal flesh. The sack was split along its seam. He then suspected it was human body parts and alerted the authorities. The gunny sack was determined to contain human flesh but no organs or bones. This meant that the unidentified victim was mutilated and dismembered before being dumped in the lake. Allegedly, Ray said that the thing to do is cut them down the belly, scoop out their guts, fill the chest cavity with cement weights, and then use balling wire to wrap them up. Furthermore, state police found bone fragments in Elephant Butte Lake belonging to a human leg in 2011. The DNA identified the victim as a female, but she was not linked to any reported missing women. Cynthia Vigil was abducted from an Albuquerque parking lot by Ray and his girlfriend. She was taken to Elephant Butte, confined to the trailer, and tortured. After 3 days of captivity, Vigil escaped from the trailer on March 22nd, 1999. To escape, she waited until Ray had gone to work and then unlocked her chains with keys that Andy had left on a nearby table. was found alive in Colorado after police identified her from a tattoo on her ankle. She testified that she had gotten in a fight with her husband and decided to spend the night playing pool with friends. Ray's daughter, Jessie, who knew Garrett, took her to the Blue Water Saloon in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, and may have drugged the beer she was drinking. She offered Garrett a ride home, but instead took Garrett to her father's house. Garrett said she endured 2 days of torture before Ray drove her back to her home. Ray told her husband that he had found the woman incoherent on a beach. Her husband did not believe that she could not remember where she had been, and Garrett said she did not know what to tell the police, and so she didn't contact them. Her husband sued for divorce, and Garrett moved to Colorado. A judge ruled that the cases for crimes against Cynthia Vigil, Angelica Montaneau, and Kelly Garrett would be severed, meaning that Ray would be tried for each separately. Prosecutors said this damaged their case, as each woman's story would otherwise have been corroborated and bolstered the other's accounts. The judge also ruled much of the evidence found in the trailer during the 1999 raid could not be admitted in the Garrett or Montaneau cases, including Ray's audio tape, in which he gave detailed descriptions of his abducting and torturing habits. The first trial for crimes against Kelly Garrett resulted in a mistrial after 2 jurors said they found her story unbelievable. Ray's defense was that the sex trailer was part of Ray's fantasy life and any sex was consensual. After a retrial, Ray was convicted on all 12 counts. A week into his trial for crimes against Vigil, Ray agreed to a plea bargain and was sentenced in 2001 to 224 years in prison for numerous offenses in the abduction and sexual torture of 3 young women at his Elephant Butte home. The plea deal was to obtain leniency for his daughter. Prosecutors stated that the surviving victims had approved of the deal. Ray's daughter, Glenda Jean Jessie Ray, was charged with kidnapping and criminal sexual penetration. She pled no contest and received a 30-month sentence with an additional 5 years to be served on probation. In 1999, 27-year-old accomplice Dennis Roy Yancey pleaded guilty to the 1997 murder of 22-year-old Marie Parker. Yancey confessed to helping Jessie Ray lure Parker into captivity in her father's trailer. Yancey said that Parker was tortured and that Ray forced him to strangle the woman to death. Prosecutors noted that no forensic evidence was found to tie Parker to the Rays. Yancey was also charged with kidnapping, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit a crime, and tampering with evidence. He was sentenced to 30 years. The Rays were not charged in Parker's murder. In 2010, Yancey was paroled after serving 11 years in prison, but the release was delayed by difficulties in negotiating a plan for residence. 3 months after his release in 2011, Yancey was charged with violating his parole. He was remanded to custody, where he remained until 2021, serving the rest of his original sentence. In 2000, Cindy Hendy, an accomplice who testified against Ray, received a sentence of 36 years for her role in the crimes. She was scheduled to receive parole in 2017. She was released on July 15, 2019, after serving the 2 years of her parole in prison. On May 28, 2002, Ray was taken to the Lee County Correctional Facility in Hobbs, New Mexico, to be questioned by state police. He died of a heart attack before the interrogation took place. Cynthia Vigil later founded Street Safe New Mexico, a volunteer harm reduction nonprofit that works with sex workers and other vulnerable people living on the street, with Christine Barber. Alright, you guys, that is the end of this case and this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, or if there is another case that you would